By 2032, ACT will empower 20.2 million more learners to exit high school ready for post-secondary and work opportunities. We will concentrate our work around 5 strategic pillars: build, inform, connect, mobilize, and partner. We are collaborating with key stakeholders to bring this bold new vision to life. We've got our work cut out for us, and with your support moving forward, we will make it happen.
Hi friends, Angelica Vanetta, co-chair of Inclusive ICR. We are a coalition of over 220 employers in Eastern Iowa, all working together to grow the diversity and inclusion of our workforce, to create a space where employees feel a sense of belonging, included, and valued. Inclusive ICR is a proud sponsor of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion track of the Iowa Ideas Conference. As you participate today, be sure to connect with other Inclusive ICR champions, as we'd love to share information with you about our upcoming coalition meetings, projects, and how our work is impacting positive social change in our region. Be sure to visit our website at inclusiveiowa.org for information on upcoming events and to sign up for our e-newsletter. Thank you and have a great conference.
Just want to let you know, my own safety for
Thank you. Peggy, one thing I was just telling everybody before, please don't mute yourself or take yourself off camera.
I'm sorry, somebody came into my office.
That's fine. It just causes me a small panic is all.
I won't do it again.
It's like, where did she go? About 3 minutes to go.
I have my camera. Yeah. I don't like you know we can pick up. I can't pack it out. You don't like
Seems like the last couple minutes before it starts are the ones that take the longest. Okay, I've got 1 more minute and I'm going to start letting the participants in.
Well, I just start when time is when it's ready. Is there anything else I need to do before we start?
No, I mean, as a matter of fact, I can start letting them in if you're ready now. Just gonna have to talk real slow because it is supposed to start at 2:25. But if you want to just introduce yourself, introduce everybody else, I will. I'm gonna mute myself and start letting them in.
Okie dokie.
All right.
So welcome everybody. We're gonna get started shortly. We'll give a minute or two for everybody to get into the session, but we'll start shortly. So we are going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to session 4 of the Iowa Ideas Conference. I'll be your moderator, Tony Wilson. This session is Life After Incarceration. It's in the DEI Health and Human Services track. I want to take a moment and thank our sponsors for the conference. We have ITC. We have Cedar Rapids Bank and Trust and Inclusive ICR, our sponsors. Thank you very much for your support. So I want to welcome everybody. My name is Tony Wilson, as I said. I am the co-founder of CCDC, which is a nonprofit that I founded 25 years ago, designed to work with people and communities to help them rekindle their hope. I'm currently serving as co-director with Rachel Rockwell. Some of the work that we're currently involved in, we're doing some group gun violence reduction work in Cedar Rapids. That's been very profitable. We're also serving as technical assistance providers for Iowa City and Des Moines. For the last 25 years, I've been working with people, either incarcerated individuals or post-incarcerated, currently working in partnership with Project Iowa and Circa in Newton and ICIW to provide life skill training for them as they go through technical training to get certification post-release. And so I'm excited to be a part of this panel and serve as a moderator. So we have 4 panelists. I'm going to have them introduce themselves, talk about how your organization works with people, either incarcerated, post-incarceration, and just let us know how it's working. So who would like to begin this lovely discussion?
I'm happy to, Tony. My name is Peggy Huppert, and I am the executive director of NAMI Iowa. That's the National Alliance on Mental Illness. NAMI, as the name implies, is a national organization. We have chapters in all 50 states and about 700 local affiliates. Here in Iowa, we have 14 local affiliates that cover 74 out of the 99 counties. What NAMI is about is elevating and representing the voices of lived experience in the mental health space. And what that means is people who are living with a mental health challenge, as well as loved ones, care partners, family members. And all of our programs, our classes, our support groups, our presentations are all delivered by trained volunteers with lived experience. And that's really what makes NAMI unique. In terms of how we interact with formerly incarcerated individuals, there's a big nexus there because, as many of you may know, right now about 50% of those who are incarcerated in the Iowa prison system have at least one mental health diagnosis. It's 95% at Mitchellville for the women. So there's a high correlation, we know, between somebody understanding their mental health challenge and how to effectively cope with it, as well as having a strong support network and not reoffending. And so we really believe in the value of that. And actually, many of our NAMI program leaders have been justice involved in their lives, are formerly incarcerated. So it's a big part of NAMI culture and how we operate.
So how do you work with incarcerated individuals or post-incarcerated individuals?
We actually have a contract with the Department of Corrections right now to offer peer-to-peer and peer support training for long-term inmates in all 8 Iowa prisons. And we're training them, and then we're going to provide ongoing support to them. And then they, in turn, are going to lead classes and lead support groups in the prisons. So we're excited about that. We hope to see that expand to community corrections because we know there are a lot more people, obviously, in community corrections, but also we need to reach families and support systems with helping them to understand how they can support people who need it.
They definitely need a post-release, that's for sure. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Mm-hmm.
So who would care to go next?
I can go. My name is Michelle Hines, and I'm the Executive Director of Inside Out Reentry Community. We are a reentry organization based in the Johnson County area. So we support individuals returning from incarceration to the community here in this area. I will say my caveat with that is we also hear from people that are incarcerated across the state going all sorts of other places too. So if we get contacted from somebody for example, that's going to be going to Des Moines or another part in the state, we're going to try to send them and share with them some resources for the area that they will be returning to. But as far as those coming here in Johnson County, some of the ways that we support formerly incarcerated individuals is assisting with finding housing, employment, getting connected with various community resources, whether it be, do they need help getting their Medicaid application filled out? Do they want to connect with a bike? We can get them connected with a bike ministry. Other things that we do in our center here is that we have weekly groups. So we have peer support groups where folks can come receive and give support. We have a peer recovery group for folks in all stages of substance use recovery. And we have a weekly community meeting where individuals can come and get support in sort of their personal growth and change. And in those meetings, we also we'll bring in other community partners sometimes to provide life skills training, such as financial literacy, or bringing in, for example, the public library to come and help individuals get a library card and learn about some of the community resources. We're also lucky that we're able to go into our local work release center every week. So we're able to connect with folks there as soon as they get out, help people get backpacks full of hygiene products, bus passes, and really get them keyed into our services. In addition to that, we also just in August opened a reentry house. So we have a home for low-income men returning from incarceration to reside in. And through that house, we are able to provide on-site case management. So really a lot more intensive support for individuals as they get out, getting connected with stuff, and it's low rent, so individuals are able to really come out, save some money for the long run. We also, right now, we're not able to physically go into the prisons, but we do interact with a lot of incarcerated individuals through letters and emails, and we try to provide as much support as we can through correspondence and helping them prepare for their release.
So
That's kind of a short version of what we do.
So how long can your men stay in the housing?
In the house, they can stay for 2 years.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Ross or Michael would like to jump in next.
I'll go ahead and go. I'm here in Fresh Start Ministry. We started 50 years ago. Fresh Start Ministry started with chaplaincy program in the Correction Center. And now we have 5 One program is the chaplain there at Lynn County Jail. We have a chaplain at the youth. We have a volunteer program where volunteers go to the Lynn County Jail and lead Bible studies and talk with individuals. We also have a program called a mentoring program where people who have incarceration can meet either with or one-on-one or circle of support, which is 4 to 8 church members who have decided to be a part of this and have been trained to do this. Basically, they help them set goals, and then they hold their feet to the fire, sure that they work on their goals. They meet once a week for 18 weeks. The guys that participate really have enjoyed it. And then the fifth program, my program, which is the RISE program. And RISE is a frontline reentry program. What we do is we meet with people for the first, we do an intake, we find out what their needs are, and we try and meet those needs. A lot of the folks that come to us are folks that have nothing, I mean, absolutely nothing. They don't have their birth certificate, Social Security card. I had one guy come in flip-flops the other day because he didn't have any shoes. So what we do is we have a clothing pantry, and what we do is we provide clothing for folks, and also we have hygiene materials. And we give them each a backpack, and then they fill up their stuff. We've got socks and underwear and shirts and pants, that kind of stuff. Also, what we do is we do a lot of partnering with other places here in the community. We work with Waypoint for housing. We work with Iowa Works for employment. And then we also work with other places like Crush and Salvation Army to help people need help.
Thank you. And Michael, your audio was breaking up just a little bit, but I can still hear you. Okay, Ross, we save our best to last, so you're on.
At your risk, my name's Ross Hauser, and I'm the executive director at the Safe Place Foundation in Cedar Rapids. We've been located in downtown Cedar Rapids since 1987, so over 30 years. And what we do, we're transitional housing for men who are in early recovery from alcoholism or drug addiction. About a third to a little better than that, maybe up to 40% of our residents come to us from correctional institutions. We don't work with the guys when they're at the institution other than to talk on the phone with them once a month just to do a check-in. But the real work starts when they get here. If they're open to change and open to doing something different and not wanting to repeat some of the mistakes of the past, and they're willing to work a program of recovery, we utilize Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous. Everybody here needs to attend so many meetings per week. They need to get a sponsor to work the steps with. We meet with them when they first come in and they're in phase 1. We'll meet with them daily to see how they're progressing. After a couple of weeks in phase 1, they move to phase 2, and then they're checking in once a week. But it's a lot of mentoring and a lot of assisting. The RISE program helps our guys a lot. There's plenty of other places in town that help these guys a lot, but they, when they first come out, and you got to be homeless or near homeless to get in here, so they don't have a place to live, they don't have a shelter over their head, so we give them shelter, we give them a place where they can live and shower and wash their clothes and cook their meals, and so they've got food, shelter, clothing, they've got all the basics, and so now they can really focus on working recovery. If they have an alcoholic problem or a drug addict problem, and we're here to assist them with that. Average length of stay here is 6 to 9 months. Some people go through quicker, some people take longer, some people don't make it. That's just the nature of the beast that we're dealing with. But everybody who comes here has been taught what the bare minimum that they need to do to be able to successfully work a program of recovery and return as a recovered man to their family or community, and hopefully ultimately get to a point of contented recovery. That's our main focus here.
Thank you, thank you. So I want to talk about challenges. So what are the most significant challenges the individuals you serve face, and what are some of the challenges that your organization faces?
Well, one of the things that I found out was that there are over 9,000 people incarcerated as of last week, and there are over 39,000 persons that are on either probation or parole out in the community. I've found that living beyond the bars has been a wonderful resource as far as finding someplace in your community to be able to help these folks and to be able to provide services for these folks. Inside Out and RISE program are both a part of that. One of the things that we have problems with is housing. And what we look for is affordable and safe housing. And it's really hard to do that in this community, especially for sex offenders. A lot of the housing that's available for our folks are in the old communities where they used to live. And of course, that's where their friends are, their places that they used to go, and the drugs that they used to take, and all of this stuff. And we need to find places that are safe and adequate for them to go. Right now in Cedar Rapids, we really don't have any space, any places that are safe for former sex offenders. I know that sometimes that's kind of a touchy subject, but we really need to find some place that's on the bus line that is that fits the parameters of what sex offenders can be, where they can be in, and be a place where they can get to work and be a member of society again.
So how do you think the city of Cedar Rapids or Lynn County could help with that housing issue? You have any ideas?
I got a chance to talk with a group from Davenport, and they have worked with their city. The city provides some places that have been taken over by the city, and they have been able to rehab those places for safe houses, and people can stay there for the rest of their lives. They can use that as a permanent place. Their houses have up to 7 people living there, and it seems to be a really good system.
Yep.
And I'd like to see something like that possibly happen.
Maybe there's somebody on the call that can help us with that. Michelle, how about the challenges you face and the people you serve? What challenges do they face as well?
Yeah, and I would really echo what you said around housing. Housing is huge, and really a lack of affordable housing is a big challenge. I mean, we often talk about how moving is like one of the most stressful things you can do. Finding a new job, one of the most stressful things that we can thing all at once. All of the most stressful things they say we do in life, they're doing it all at the same time. And that's incredibly overwhelming. And that alone creates a lot of challenges as folks are trying to navigate the space and as they do facing various forms of potentially discrimination, especially around the housing front. There are just a lot of landlords that will not rent to individuals that have backgrounds. And that, you know, that's overwhelming. And I think a challenge that sort of falls along in that front is around sort of the mental health arena. When you are trying to do all of these things, it can be really hard to say, wow, you know, I really need to make that AA meeting, or I really need to go make a mental health counseling appointment, because it's just so overwhelming trying to do all of the things that they're doing. I think that, you know, as a reentry provider, one of the challenges we face is a lot of times just the lack of resources to connect people with. I mean, I think it sounds like, you know, all of us here on the call, we have so many community partners that we work with all of the time. We're really knowledgeable about where we can connect folks, but a lot of times there just is this sort of financial barrier that a lot of folks just really struggle being able to sort of get caught up, get back on their feet and move forward. It's just, yeah, I'd say kind of overall, just sort of some of the limited resources in the community can really impact, I think, all of us as providers in doing this complex work.
So how can the community assist with this overwhelming number of people that are showing up that are need help, need mentorship? How can they help?
Yeah. I mean, I would always encourage folks to get involved. You know, if it was up to me, we would have an even larger volunteer base than what we have here at Inside Out. Luckily, we're very grateful for we wouldn't be able to do the work that we do without all of the volunteers that we have that donate our time. And I think that, you know, we also just really need affordable housing. So the more resources that communities can advocate for, whether it be, you know, city-driven affordable housing where they offer more funds, that organizations like mine was able to apply for funding to be able to purchase the house to make affordable housing, for example. You know, projects like that go a long distance because, you know, we're going to be having our reentry house for years to come, and there'll be people coming in and being able to access that affordable housing. And I think, you know, that sort of advocacy that we can all do to reduce the stigma around incarceration and how to increase resources for incarcerated individuals is really important.
Thank you. Thank you. Peggy, you're nodding at me. You have so much, you have something to say. Go, Peggy.
I'm just agreeing with everything Michelle was saying. So when you consider the stigma of somebody who's been incarcerated, and then you add on the stigma of having a behavioral health diagnosis or more than one, which is not uncommon. And then you might add on the stigma of being a person of color, of being a member of the LGBTQ community. You start realizing that people can be facing multiple stigmas in their attempts to be productive and healthy citizens. It's really can be a tough hill to climb. And I know there's an exercise in which people are given this whole list of things that they have to get done to help illustrate how hard this really is. And you have to take the bus, and you know, there's a lot of restrictions and limitations on how you achieve those things, which is realistic for someone because they often don't have reliable transportation and a lot of other issues. But then think about if that person is feeling so depressed that they really can't get out of bed, or they're feeling so anxious that the thought of being on public transportation or in a crowded office makes their heart race and is keeping them from leaving where they live, or they're hearing voices that are telling them to not do what they know they should be doing, or to do something that they shouldn't. And it's then it really does become almost insurmountable. And so I think it's important that that's the beauty of something like NAMI, because it's not just for people who are formerly incarcerated. It's for everybody who is part of a family or has a diagnosis or just wants to learn how to help or do better. And it's a way to be part of a community, to feel accepted, but also to get that education and support that you really need on. It's not just a one-off, right? It's not that you just take a class whether that's in prison or once you're out. And then you've got it all, you've got it down, you know it. No, it's, it's ongoing. Recognizing that mental illness is a chronic disease. I have diabetes, type 2 diabetes, and I often compare it to diabetes because they're both chronic illnesses. And there is no cure for either one, but there are very effective treatments. But they require a lot of vigilance and ongoing attention to keeping yourself well. And so educating ourselves about what that really is and how we can best support people, because the other reality is that the huge majority of people who go to prison are going to get out. And it's in our own best interest as a society to do everything we can to help them be successful when they get out. Because having them end up back in prison not only is horrible for them and for their families, but it's very costly to society.
So you talked about people who taught your classes, who teach your classes have lived experience.
Mhm.
If there's somebody in the community that wanted to volunteer, would they be able to do that, or do they have to have lived experience?
Well, you have to have lived experience to be a NAMI program leader. But it's pretty, most people have some kind of lived experience.
Right.
If anybody is interested, you can go to namiiowa.org and you can get more information. You can learn about the different programs and how you might be able to get involved, either by taking one or by getting trained to lead one.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mhm.
Ross.
I don't. I think the community supports us very, very well, and they have for a long time. When I took this job almost 7 years ago, I thought, man, these guys are never going to be able to get jobs because they got felonies on their criminal record, or they got lengthy absences in their work history, and it's been exactly the opposite. Maybe it's because we've been here so long, but employers in Cedar Rapids really are great at picking our guys. Our guys here don't have trouble finding work if they really want to work. There's a few that don't, but the ones that really want to work, they don't have trouble finding work. We've got several employers in town that have been great at hiring our guys and seeing them through that. But and as far as the housing when they leave here, that's I'm more concerned about what they're doing today with their recovery. Because if they're working a program of recovery, they're going to get to a point where not only are they employable, but they're going to be able to acquire the housing that they need and move away from that past that was with them before, rather than falling back into the past again. So we give them that chance and a safe place to live while they're doing it, and other people in recovery to help them along the way. To me, that's the biggest issue is the guys that have a substance abuse issue or an alcohol issue. We want them to get going on recovery. And my experience is the guys that get going on recovery, a lot of these other issues just kind of smooth out for them. Because people can tell when people are really making an effort to better themselves rather than trying to be a taker. We don't give out a lot of freebies here because my experience is if I give somebody something today, they're just going to come back tomorrow or the next week wanting the same handout. So I'd rather give them a hand up, get them to a better place in their life, and then they're able to turn around and help the guy coming along behind them. So the idea is a hand up rather than a handout. And but we've utilized Waypoint and other places in the community to help our guys find places to live. There's a great organization called Central Furniture Rescue, which provides furniture and pots and pans and other things that guys need when they go into a new place. We're still here for them, and hopefully we'll still be seeing them at recovery meetings and know that they're still continuing to work recovery. A lot of guys fall apart. Someone mentioned, well, maybe I don't need to go to that AA meeting tonight. And that's exactly the kind of thinking we're hoping to avoid. If they've been here for 3, 4, 6, 8 months, and that's kind of become their lifestyle, they've already made a good habit about getting to their meetings and talking to other people in recovery and reaching out to help other people. That's going to get them to a better place quicker than anything I can do. So that's it.
So when you think of time, talent, and treasure, how can the community support you in the work that you do?
Well, we have a lot of volunteers, a lot of them from the recovery community. The recovery community's been awesome to our guys, and they provide sponsors for these guys. They give them rights to meetings. We get that sort of support all the time. We can give them a bus pass if they need a bus pass, but um, the biggest thing is trying to start living a different life. And what I find is the people in the community are already helping us do that. Um, they're receptive to our guys. They're willing to hire them. They're willing to work with them. They're willing to. Uh, Now, certainly, if somebody has a mental health issue, we want to see that they get treatment for that too. And unfortunately, mental illness and substance abuse tend to go hand in hand for a lot of people. So if they're not getting the mental health treatment that they need, that can cause a problem with their recovery, or vice versa if they're getting. But we've got several area agencies that deal with that, and Abbey Center and other places that are willing to see these guys and diagnose their issues and get them on the right medication if they need it. But what I find is a person who's actually working a program of recovery seems to have a lot fewer mental health issues. There are some that are chronic and need to be regularly treated, but a lot of them are just it's just a matter of getting the guy on the right track in recovery, and those things are going to disappear or minimize to the point that they're not really causing them problems.
Thank you, thank you. So my next question. So what are your future plans for either expanding your services or expanding your outreach? What are your future plans?
Well, I think I already mentioned, Tony, that we hope to expand NAMI programming into community corrections so that we can reach not only people who are on parole or probation, which are many more than are in prison, but also their family members, their support networks, their loved ones, and also parole and probation officers, because I just think it's really key that anybody who works regularly with people who are dealing with a serious mental illness understand it. That doesn't mean enable bad behavior or overlook things, but it means understand it and understand why something might be happening, why they might say or do something, or why something works or doesn't work. There can be some real insight, and the many people who take our training who work in a setting where they come in contact regularly with people with a mental health challenge say it's really changed how they do their jobs. So I think that we also focus on K-12 education and law enforcement because those are important systems as well. But that's what we hope to be able to do.
Thank you, thank you. So ladies first, go ahead, Michelle. I see you're moving.
Yeah, I'd say, one thing I think about is just, the past couple of years, I've been with Inside Out for 5.5 years now, and we have seen such a substantial increase in the number of people we serve. And I don't see it slowing down at all. The more and more people learn about our organization, the more and more people come and receive our services. And so, a big part of our future plans is keeping up, just trying to keep up with all the folks coming in our door and connecting them with, the right connections. I think if you would have told me 5.5 years ago how many people we would serve now, I don't think I'd believe you. And I just really don't see it slowing down anytime soon. I know as far as one of our really long-term goals is, we'd like to have more than one house. If you see the number of people that apply to come to the house, you would see how much more a need is to have more than just the one that we have. And as always, we always want to improve our programming. We've, been able to expand our staffing to try to keep up, but there's a lot to do and a lot to be done. And just to keep moving and keep, improving and expanding our services.
Well, it's kind of a So you say you needed more houses. How many houses would be enough?
That's a good question. I mean, I think that's a really good question. It's definitely more than one, that's for sure. And you look at communities that have a lot of, there are communities that have a lot of reentry houses. Go to places like Des Moines and even in Davenport, there, those, parts of the state have, quite a few places where folks can go in that transition. And our house is also sober housing, and I think we're the only sober house for men in Johnson County. So there's really a big, a big need for it. So, I mean, I'm not quite sure what that number is, but definitely more than what exists at present.
Thank you. Thank you. How about you, Russ?
Well, Safe Place Foundation has two houses standing right next to each other. Between the two houses, I've got 40 beds total, which is awesome. We're usually at about, in fact, I think we've got like 30 people here right now. So we're never really at 40, but I can accommodate a lot of people here. And I want them to be able to stay as long as they need to be able to get their feet under them. But it is transitional housing. And usually when they reach a certain point, it may be time for them to move on. I let them make that decision. I don't march people to the curb and tell them they're kicked out because they've been here too long. Some people need a little longer. We try to treat each case individually. Some guys move quicker, some guys move slower. Some guys are more receptive to certain ideas than others. And the number that we have right now allows us to treat each person individually. If we were larger, it'd be nice to have a more modern facility probably, but I don't have any big wish list like that because my focus is on helping these guys on a daily basis to get to where they need to be. And we're at the point where we can do that. And the guys that live in the house that have been here for a while end up being mentors to the newer people, and it just kind of carries on. We'll serve 100 people a year generally, and that's a pretty good number. That's a lot of people that are getting help. And the thing people don't understand is when I get a guy on his feet in recovery, that has a ripple effect in the community. That affects his family and his community in a positive way, and he's in a position then to also, like I said before, turn around and give a hand up to the next person coming along behind him. So I have wishes, but the main wish is that these guys stay sober today and do what they need to do today to be sober and to grow in their sobriety. And that's what we're here for.
Thank you. Mike.
We also utilize a lot of volunteers, but we can definitely use more. We have a partnership with both Coe College and Mount Mercer University. They provide students for us that help out. One of my goals is to get former offenders more involved in our program, and we are looking at starting an advisory group with our former folks and getting them involved. Basically, we need stuff. I give away 120 pair of work pants every month, probably over 200 pairs of socks, 200 pairs of underwear. And so that's one of the needs that we really have. We have a coffee station, and people come over and have coffee, and it gives us a chance to talk a little bit about, well, how you coming on your housing and how you coming on employment, what's going on with your job, that kind of stuff. And folks like cake, coffee cake, candy bars, that kind of stuff, and that always kind of adds to their coffee time. And they love their caffeine, that's for sure. So, one of the things that kind of like what Michelle was doing was we're trying to catch up with what the need is out there. One of the things that I'd like to encourage people to do, the Department of Corrections has a simulation on, it's a recovery simulation. Not recovery, but a reentry simulation. And it goes through some of the issues that our folks go through when they try to get out and get into the community. It's a real catch-22. You got to have an ID to get a birth certificate. And you have to have a birth certificate to get your Social Security card, and you have to have a Social Security card to prove who you are for other things. And it gets to be a real catch-22 with some of the things that affect our folks, and it's real frustrating. And we try and help people slow down. We want a lot of folks, when they come to us the first time, they want to jump from the floor up to the ceiling. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to give them a ladder so that they climb up slowly and they take the steps that they need to get where they want to be.
So if somebody wanted to participate in that simulation, who would they contact?
If you go to the Department of Corrections site, that can get you to that link. I have not done it, so I am not sure exactly how to maneuver it, but somebody from you should be able to find it through their link.
I think people would really be surprised at how tough it is when you're trying to recover from prison or even alcohol, drugs, or whatever. So that simulation would be good for somebody to sponsor that in the community so people can take advantage of that.
Oh yeah.
So there's a Q&A button, I believe, for the audience. If you have questions for the panel, you can submit those questions and they'll pass them on to me, to us. So this question, who's tracking whether or not we're achieving success? Is there somebody that's checking to see if people are thriving after services? Is there anybody tracking that information?
We track it at Inside Out. I mean, we do the best we can with sort of I would say, very prehistoric software that we have available to us. But yeah, we do track it. We look at our success when it comes to helping people find employment, our success with helping people find housing, and we also look at our recidivism rate versus the rate. I am happy to say that our rate is lower than what the state rates is. So we are able to show that our organization is seeing quite a bit of success with helping folks. I would love to have better software so we could do some more specific and intensive numbers. But yeah, we look at it all, and we look at, and one of the things we've really seen too is we serve a lot of people, and some could vary range from what Michael was saying is someone might come in, get a backpack and clothing, we meet them one time and we don't work with them again, versus other people that we're providing really intensive case management services to. They come to every single one of our weekly groups. And one of the things that we have found is that those that are very active, those that come to our center on a regular basis, that work with our case manager, that come to our meetings, do have a lower recidivism rate than the folks that, maybe just pop in the door one time. And, we get them maybe what they need, but we don't really work with them very much after that.
So Michelle, I'm just curious, what is the comparison, the overall versus for your organization?
Yes. So the state rate right now is 37%. So 37% of those leaving prison do return to prison within 3 years. We were lucky. We had a Master's of Public Health student with us this summer who had some specialty to run these numbers for us. And she looked at ours and found that ours, for just every single person we had served, the rate was 24%. And then when we looked at those that actively came into our resource center, so those that came in for multiple visits, the rate went down to 11%.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah.
So I have a follow-up for you, Michelle. So have you identified the software that you need for your...
Yeah, no, we haven't. But yes, if anybody is out in the audience and has, some software ideas that are also affordable for a small grassroots reentry organization, please let me know. Because right now we use, of course, Excel to do basically everything, which works, but it's not fancy or speedy.
So hopefully somebody out there will reach out, because I know that the resources are out there. You just have to let them be known.
Exactly. Thank you.
I know that in the 6th district, which includes both Michelle and my program, we are much lower than the state. But the problem that I've been finding is that when you talk about recidivism, what does that mean? Because different people have different definitions. And if somebody was, for example, if someone was in prison for one thing and then they go to jail for something else, is that counted as someone within that system? So it's kind of hard to define that way. My definition a lot of times is, well, we've got people that have gotten in the community and have done well, and we've had other people that have not done so well. And, we need to look at each case individually and see how we can help.
Thank you. So we got a question in the chat, and the question is, with the individuals you work with, can you talk more about how you work with their family as well, if they have family around?
That's a great question. I know we don't do a lot of direct work with the family. However, we do coordinate when the individual sort of provides us the ability to. We maintain a lot of confidentiality with the person we serve. But partners, spouses, children are always welcome at our groups. For example, we've had multiple partners that have come to meetings with the individual that we serve just to show support and get some support for themselves. We also refer a lot of family members there's a group based out of Marion called Living Beyond Bars, and they have a group and support specifically for family members of incarcerated individuals. And we try to support how we can, but generally the most of the work that we do at Inside Out is just directly to that person. But it is so necessary, providing support for the family as well, and especially the children, because incarceration impacts so many, and in some really serious ways.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? Do you work with families as well?
That's our growing edge. I've actually talked with the person that started Living Beyond the Bars, and she has offered to come and do family groups at our facilities. So I'm hoping that within the next year we can possibly start offering something. And if my director is listening, I'm sorry I didn't talk to you about this first.
Ask for forgiveness, not permission.
Okay, all right.
So at the safe place, I may have a conversation on the phone with a family member, but I don't really work with them directly. I'm really more focused on helping the individual that's living here to start taking better actions. I had a sponsor once that told me, Ross, you can't think your way into better acting, but you can act your way into better thinking. And so with recovery, it's all about the actions that you're taking. And really, I'm focused on the guy that's here. He's the guy I can have an impact on. A lot of family members mean well, but maybe don't know the right thing to do. Could maybe benefit from a couple meetings of Al-Anon or something else where they're going to learn more about their role and what they can and can't do. It's, I don't have power over anybody. I can't make anybody do anything. I can make suggestions and make the best suggestions that I can, but it's up to that individual to make that effort.
Thank you. Thank you. So, looking at your programs and the support that you have, what are you the most hopeful about going forward?
I really think that just like attitudes are changing and have changed toward mental health challenges, behavioral health challenges, I think attitudes are also changing about people who have been incarcerated. And it's not even really aligned with the political spectrum. You have pretty conservative business groups that are working for like ban the box initiatives, because they recognize that it is in everyone's best interest to make sure, as I said, that people can live healthy, productive lives and not reoffend or feel like they have sometimes no other choice. So, I mean, when I see a real generational difference when it comes to mental health. The 20-somethings are much more willing to talk about what's happening with them, to talk to their friends, to be open about it. And I think I sing the same thing regarding the idea of living next to or working with someone who has been formerly incarcerated. I think attitudes are changing. So maybe I'm too pie in the sky, but that's what gives me hope.
Thank you, Peggy.
Well, I think even on a small scale, anytime you see somebody like, just recently someone stopped back into our office that we hadn't seen for over a year, and they came in and they're doing great, and they, have this awesome job, and they just bought a car, and they wanted to come in and show us the car and talk us about, there's even just the little stuff that really gets you kind of energized about doing this work, because you saw what that person's situation was, a year ago, and to see where they are today and all the stuff that they've accomplished is really exciting and energizes us. And I think that, we're so grateful for all of the support that we got with the opening of our house. I mean, the donations, I mean, you should see the quality of furniture that people donated in all of our bedrooms, so we're able to provide a really comfortable, cozy house that's not just, what kind of junky scraped up stuff. I mean, we got some really beautiful stuff donated to our house. And I think that, as Peggy said, there's obviously a lot of work to do, but there is a lot of, changing narrative. And I think that, hopefully we can continue to do this work, and the stigma can go down, and, the resources increase, because the more folks are able to come out, stay in our communities, continue to be our neighbors, loved ones, coworkers, it's better for everyone in the long run.
So I keep asking these questions. So if someone had a house that they wanted to donate or whatever, rent or whatever, who would they contact?
Me.
Well, yeah, me. Give us a
I think
call.
Shell and Michael are gonna arm wrestle over it.
We are.
They can share. They could share. They look like
Yeah.
people.
Absolutely. And, I mean, even if it is just a landlord that is really open to renting to folks, and we have a few landlords in town that we have relationships with that do give us a call and say, hey, I've got this unit, it's opening up. Do you have anybody for it? And, we love those types of relationships, because especially if we get to know them and we know what they're looking for in a tenant, we can help sort of screen that. And we work with so many people that there's always somebody that's going to fit into that category. So yeah, I will wrestle Michael.
Just share. Just share.
Actually, what I was thinking was, I'll give it to Michelle, and then we'll move our folks in there.
There we go.
So one last question. Does anybody on the panel have a question they want to ask of somebody else on the panel?
What I'll ask for all of the other three, because we're not a direct service provider, so we're a little different. But what would you say is we've talked about a lot of barriers today, but what would you identify as the single biggest barrier that you see to people coming out of being incarcerated and being successfully reintegrated into life?
One of the things that I see right away is that folks will get out, and there's no shelters, there's nothing for them to go to, and so where they go is to their old places and stay with their old friends, and then they'll start doing their old things and end up back where they were before.
That's a big one, and we see that too. People will come out and they really want to try to do right, and they just they look around and they're just struggling. So they need a roof, they need something. So they kind of go back to where they can gather their resources. And I think another really big barrier that I've seen is just a lot of folks come out and they're not prepared. And if they had maybe a little bit more preparation, maybe a little bit more support during their incarceration, that they could come out, a few steps ahead, would make the rest of the process, so much better. And we do see some folks come out that are ready, but a huge portion of the folks we work at they're just not prepared enough before they get out the door.
Ross, what about you?
Well, I think one of the biggest things that annoys me is mental health issues are completely underaddressed and underserviced. And I'm not blaming NAMI for that. You guys are helping, but there's so many people that have mental health issues that have never been properly diagnosed, never been properly treated. And, nothing gets in the way of a guy who's trying to do good, like having a mental health issue that is unknown or untreated. And so that's one of my big complaints. But the other thing, the whole thing about what's a guy going to do when he comes out, his attitude is so important. And I can't make him have a certain attitude, but if he comes here and starts doing recovery, his attitude is going to change. And he's going to be a more positive person. He's going to engage in more positive activities. He's going to help more people out. And, the best thing I can have is a guy that used to live at the safe place that's now out on the street doing recovery and helping other people. And, that's why I have some hope, because we do have a lot of those guys that churn out of here. About 25% of our guys leave here successfully completing everything we ask them to do, which doesn't sound like much, but I think it's better than any treatment center record that I'm aware of. And, these guys that leave and are on the right path are going to be huge proponents for good in their community and within their own family. I see a lot of people that have mental health issues that have never been properly diagnosed. And I don't know what the answer to that is, but
Well, I thank you for saying that. It's interesting to hear you say that. And Tony, I'll just suggest that for people who are participating here, if you're looking for an avenue for action in addition to volunteering or donating to any of these great agencies, talk to your legislator, to your policymaker about the need for additional resources for not just affordable housing, but community-based mental health treatment that is accessible and affordable, but also more resources in the prisons so that people can come out more prepared. 82% of the people who serve time in Iowa prisons come out without having any access to any education or training because they don't have enough openings. So there's a real problem there with, they've got some great programs, but not enough people are able to access them. And they do come out not prepared. And that would include mental health diagnosis and treatment.
So thank you. So there's a comment in the chat that says from Sylvia, she says she's in Arkansas. She says she believes that Cooperative Extension Service is hosting reentry simulations. So maybe we can see.
I know they're usually done in groups.
Yeah.
I've done that. I've also done, there's a poverty simulation. And they are great educational, really opens people's eyes.
Yeah. Well, we're at the end of our time. I just want to remind people that the next keynote is Francis Haugen, the whistleblower. So that starts at 3:30. So it's been a pleasure moderating this group, and I appreciate the panel and I appreciate the audience. And so there are no more questions. Shall say goodbye for now.
Okay.
Thanks,
Bye.
Tony.
Thank you.